Hey everyone. So I want to cover Kayo for Project Blue, and I think it's a kind of tricky deck to figure out because Kayo can kind of play two different game plans fairly well. The first is a kind of mid-range focused style list where you are playing pretty efficient cards, using the might token every single turn to have a overall better turn cycle than your opponent in terms of damage. And so blocking with two cards and playing two cards is pretty common. But then also there is the ability to flex into much more aggressive lines, bigger hands, 4 to 5 cards, and setting a bunch of go again. So we're trying to, kind of similar to CC, merge the two ideas together. The only problem is that we are missing some pretty big staple cards like Blood Rush Bellow and Cast Bones. So you're losing some of the actual really good setup potential that in my opinion make KO really good. But we're going to still try to play some kind of similar play lines. So a lot of these cards you'll recognize from CC. That would be cards like, Pulping, Bare Fangs, Wild Ride, Agile Windup, and then you have a bunch of different blues that can become 6 powers, either with KO's ability or naturally. So something like Run Roughshod becomes a 6 when you discard it with KO's ability when it looks at it. So overall, pretty similar, but then you have to think about the cards that we're losing. So we're losing Blood Rush Bellows. So there's not really like a one-to-one comparison. The closest thing I could think of was Lead with Speed. This is a card that condenses a lot of damage into a single turn, just adding +3 with Go again into your turn. But then it also makes an agility token. And that was the same idea with Test of Agility as well as the Clashes. These just give you more opportunities to block and then actually sculpts like maybe like a 4 or 5 card hand, specifically with Clash of Agility and Test. If you, for instance, have like a really powerful card in your arsenal, maybe that's Bare Fangs, and you can double Bare Fangs or go Bare Fangs, Wild Ride, send something else, and that's all facilitated via an agility token, then you're able to just use one of your cards defensively to kind of sneak in that agility. But there could be something cleaner, so if something's been working for you, please let me know in the comments. The equipment feels pretty self-explanatory. Arcbone, because more often than not, you're probably getting 1 resource out of it after blocking for 1. Beam Trackers allows you to basically get like pseudo Snapdragons during a powerful turn. And then we have 2 Blade Beckoner equipments, and then we have Mandible Claw. I think Mandible Claw is pretty good because a lot of your deck is facilitated by an agility token. So if you get to go Bare Fangs, and you have a bunch of cards left, because if you're agility, you can at least convert it into a claw and then play a Chain Ender. The other thing you consider would be Ball Breaker, but something just tells me, I think more often than not, there might be a chance where in a lower power format, I want to deal 20 as fast as possible. And I think Claw actually may just facilitate that a little bit more often than Ball Breaker. Sideboard is pretty easy. We have some Null Rune for Wizard, including Arcane Polarity, or if you want to play this against Runeblade. And then for Go Tall decks, we have just some more blocking cards specifically for aggro. But if you're playing against, decks that play Overpower, or if you're playing against Azalea, you have Unmovable, Take It on the Chin. These are just ways to prevent large attacks. Take It on the Chin is also good against reactive decks as well. It's like one of the few quote defense reactions you can play in this format. And it is pretty good at covering breakpoints as well against certain aggro decks. So that's a list. We'll jump into a game and see how it plays. All right, so for our game here, we're playing against Kayo. The way that I would play this matchup is trying to race, but really trying to abuse a lot of the clash cards, just because we will win basically every single clash against this deck. So for instance, going second here, if the Fi tries to leak damage on turn 1, we have the ability to use Clash of Agility, which I think will really help us out on our turn, hopefully. So they're opening up with a Rising. We'll get to use it right here. Hopefully make an agility token, unless if we reveal one of the 4-block clash cards, which I sided into the matchup, cutting some of my non-block cards. Blood Drop, knowing that the top card is just a yellow Agile Windup, we'll block with one of our yellows. Go ahead and block for 3, and then we're going to hope that they don't follow up with a final Chain Ender. If they do, we can just use our Armor Suite to block it out, but if they do go off Arsenal though, we are happy with that. They decide to Arsenal here, so we don't have to use our armor yet. This hand is pretty mid in my opinion. We do have an agility token. What I think we're going to do here is probably just play the Wild Ride, pitching the Smashback Alehorn. We'll probably discard a 6 here, which is less relevant, but at least gives us a might token for next turn. This is overall a pretty anemic hand. We discarded Bare Fangs, which ideally actually would have been one of the cards we would have kept. And now we have the option between making another agility token or descending 6. I think based on where we're at here, and how this matchup goes, I think we just have to go ahead and just send as much raw damage as possible. I don't think this is going to be a very slow matchup at all. So we draw a test of agility. That's good for us, but doesn't really benefit us for our turn. This would have been good if we had a 5-card hand. They're going to play Brand for 4. I think this could be worth blocking, but they're going to play a lot more cards this turn. So I may wait for something with an on hit to use the test of agility with. Our turn is probably going to be playing lead with speed and a pack hunt, so there's really kind of no purpose here. This is going to come in for 4, and then the next thing is also going to come in for an extra +2. I mean, we're looking at a lot of damage here. Flame coming in for 3. We're still not blocking yet, in my opinion. Looks like they're going to use Mask and the arms to filter out a card from their hand. That's kind of an interesting application. And then they're going to come in for 5. We'll go ahead and just block like this. We know they're about to draw a Wrath though. That's absolutely terrifying. So we basically have to kill them on this turn. The best thing I can think of here would actually be using the Bark Bone. If we hit a 4 or higher, then we at least get to potentially use Claw. We may just have to gamble here because I think that if we don't do it, I feel like we lose. Although this does come in for 10. So it does demand 1 card from them. And so the question is, do we want to gamble on the Bark Bone? Knowing that they have a Wrath, I feel like it may end up being worth it, but this could be potentially a questionable play. We do get rewarded, so maybe this is bad results, but I do think that sometimes when you're playing Brute, you have to actually think about using kind of like a bit more variance in your gameplay. When you lean into it, sometimes you're rewarded. If we hit a 1 there, they get to keep that card, but knowing that they are holding a Wrath in their hand, I just really want to put as much pressure on as possible, and every card I rip from them is just lowering the damage that the Wrath turn is going to do. So I think I'm willing to try to gamble on a little bit of RNG there. Statistically, we're only going to make 1 resource, so it's like a round of 50-50. All right, so we're playing against Kano. So for the first time, your AV actually may have some viability here. So we do have cards in our sideboard for this matchup. The biggest thing here is we're probably going to take out some of our Clash cards. Our Clash cards are going to have no text in this matchup, and we'll probably bring in something like Arcane Polarity and then maybe take it on the chin as well. It's a pretty easy swap. And so I think that we're probably good to go with this kind of list. It's going to be a weirder game. We're not really going to play probably on the same axis, but hopefully the lines will still make sense to you. Overall, this is pretty solid. We're able to AB2, and then we can also play Take It on the Chin and then discard Agile Windup during our opponent's turn. So overall, I think that this is pretty fantastic for us going second. I am unfortunately a little bit unfamiliar with how Kano plays in this format. I'm not exactly sure if it's more combo focused or more mid-range focused with the taller arcane spells. So I guess part of this will be a learning opportunity for me as well. And this is a little bit weird because we have the ability to pitch a blue here and maybe be more resource efficient. But I do really want to keep the blue for my own turn potentially, so I'm kind of leaning towards using the yellow. If my opponent passes here, I still think we may use the Agile Windup. All right, so it looks like they're going to be attacking us with another spell. We'll go ahead and pay 2. I think overall this is pretty solid. We'll go ahead. It's a little bit odd because this already has Go Again, but we couldn't really plan exactly what our job is going to be. We could use Claw here, but regardless, we're probably going to send Claw after the pulping anyway. So it looks like our turn here is going to be Claw into Run Roughshod. So it's not bad. It's, I believe, presenting close to lethal here. And we do leave up a resource if for some reason the Kano wants to do something at instant speed. I think we're perfectly fine. We'll go ahead and send the Run Roughshod. Pretty blue heavy hand, unfortunately. If we had another red here, we maybe get to pressure more damage. My opponent's already going to drop down to 1, so a little bit scary. They're going to play an Emeritus for 4 Arcane. I'm not really super concerned about that. I'm trying to think here really quickly if we can do anything interesting on our turn. We have a Might Token, but we don't really have a way to get Go Again. We don't have any discard effects, so we can't use like Beaten Trackers or anything like that. So I think that we probably are just going to pay into some of these effects this turn. Gonna send an Overflow. Definitely good. But with no resources up, I don't really know if we actually need to care about this. We could hold another blue on our turn, but I'm not really sure what that gets us. I mean, maybe we can put a Smash Instinct in Arsenal if we're able to make an Agility token. This can be a good way to close out games, or just sandbag a blue here. This at least coming in for 7 probably should pressure most of the cards in them, or a combo response, so I think we're in a good spot. Either they're going to block out for 7 and not really have a turn besides maybe playing a 0-cost spell, or in response here, since there's an Intimidate trigger on the stack and the hand may end up being worse, they may actually opt to go off instead, at which point we have 4 resources plus Barkbone. Barkbone's actually really important in this matchup because you will be able to pop this at instant speed and potentially get extra resources to AB, so it's even like better than a Tunic sometimes. So they get to narrowly block out for 7. I'm not exactly sure if the card that they got Intimidated is the card they want to keep for the turn. There's a chance it could have been awkward. I think we probably will end up arsenaling the Smash Instinct. We may need to just close out the game here pretty soon, and that card will definitely do it. All right, looks like their hand wasn't playable. I feel like we probably have things locked up pretty cleanly here. We're going to go ahead and use the beaten trackers to get our action point, draw a new card. So this will, in essence, get go again. And we have our Smash Instinct in Arsenal. So if our opponent blocks out and has no way to kill us, we'll just intimidate their other card from hand. They'll have nothing left to block with. So for instance, if we draw a new card, they'll have to block with 2 cards. We send Claw, they have to block with 2 cards again, and then we send the Smash Instinct either with the strapping or this potential new blind card that we drew, which would have been a blue. So you're still playing those like 2-card hands, but you do sometimes need to compress a lot of your damage into one turn. That's something Brute does very well, where you kind of had these like combo-esque turns. So in the early game, you know, we were keeping 2 cards, just sending, you know, Pack Hunt, sending Pulping, maybe going a little bit wide if we have the space with our hand, but then eventually at some point you're going to have a turn where maybe you use the Boots and Savage Feast, and you have a 5-card hand, and that enables you to say no blocks, you know, in a 20 health format, and then present, you know, a ton of damage to your opponent, and you're able to use the agilities pretty well. And I think that this matchup probably, hopefully, gave some idea about how you want to play those lines. So hopefully between the 2 games, it's helpful for you to understand how the deck plays. But until next time, thank you for watching.